What is the emotion going on in my mind right now? You'll be amazed, most of us cannot answer that question. Or we answer it in a very, very nonchalant way by saying, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling okay, I'm feeling nice, which is not true at all. There's some emotion going on. I'm feeling restless, slightly restless, not very much. I'm not feeling angry, but I'm feeling a little irritated with so and so's behavior. I'm not really worried as such, but a little bit of anxiety is there with regard to something that might have to face tomorrow. Now, when you do this sort of exercise 10 times, 20 times, mark out how many times you could immediately come out with the answer, and a correct answer, mind you, specific emotion and feeling. No harm if you couldn't do it, because then the next step would be start practicing. It just comes out of practice. Do it 10 times, do it 100 times, do it 500 times. Take your time. Any time of the day, you don't have to stop your work. You only have to stop yourself mentally. You may be doing some routine thing like driving a vehicle or doing cooking in the kitchen, or just sitting and waiting for somebody, or whatever it is. Physically, you continue doing what you are. Mentally stop yourself and ask this question. Now, the more you practice this, the more you will be able to understand your own emotions. That is where you have taken the first step. So when you know your own emotion, then ask yourself the second question, the why part of it. Why am I getting irritated when so-and-so is making a noise? Why did I feel disappointed when such and such friend did not call me? Go into the reasons behind it. And you'll be amazed if you really practice and if you really put your mind to it, the reason will slowly surface. You'll probably recall that even earlier I was let down by a very good friend of mine, and slowly that person stopped responding. I didn't even realize till one fine day I found that he actually is not my friend anymore. So this time when something very small happened, this friend had promised that today morning he's going to call me up, and the whole morning is getting over and his call has not come. I am developing an anxiety. Am I headed the same way? Is this relationship also going to get spoiled? Whereas he may not have called me for a simple reason that he forgot, or he is overslept in the morning, or his friend came over and he got very busy with something else. It could be nothing to do with me. But you see how our indoctrination, our past experiences play a role. So once you start connecting up these two, then venture into the waters outside. Then you say, okay, now I am going to learn what is going on in the mind of another person. Easiest way is to start with people whom you know fairly well, but not too well. Because remember that people whom you think you are closest to, they are the people who play games with you. If you've ever had the occasion to read that book called Games People Play, you'll understand that with most of our second line of people, or people with whom we are not very deeply and very closely emotionally attached, we are very open and frank. I'm feeling hungry. Could I have something to eat, please? But if I'm feeling hungry, I've come back from outside and my wife is busy sitting and watching TV. I don't tell her straight away, I'm feeling hungry, why don't you switch off the TV and make some food for me? You know what I do? Something interesting going on TV, is it? She says, yeah, one of those serials. Yeah, but those serials are more important to you than anything else. No, go ahead, watch. No, why? What's particular about it? No, to you, TV is far more important in life than anything else, including your own family. Nothing of that sort. I was just sitting and watching TV. Yes, I know. I suppose in the morning also you were busy. Yeah, my friend had come over and, I was chatting up with her. Oh, I see. Your friends are more important than family. Now she's getting really perturbed. What's happening? What are you trying to say? Do you realize what time it is and how hungry I am? You know that I haven't had proper breakfast. I rushed off early in the morning. Oh my God, why didn't you tell me that? Why should I tell you? If you love me, you should have known that. No, nowhere in the Deepest of psychology books, it is written that a wife who loves her husband should know the content of his stomach and how hungry he is. Yet, this is what we presume. And that's why I'm cautioning you, don't do it with people who are very close to you. You can use the skill of empathy. Once you've learned the skill of empathy, you can use it to improve even your personal relationship. But let's start with people whom you know at the peripheral level. And if they happen to be your friends or something of that sort, you can do a simple exercise like what you did for yourself. You tell the person, can you tell me what are you thinking right now? The person will say, this is what I'm thinking. Then ask that person, what are you feeling right now? And before he answers, you make a mental note, I think this person is happy, or I think this person is showing some anxiety, or I think this friend is irritated right now. Put a label to the emotions in your own mind and then ask him, what are you feeling right now? And see how close you were to the correct answer. Just start off practicing like this, as I told you, with friends, with acquaintances, with colleagues or something of that sort. And if the person is close enough to you, you can even bounce it back to him. When he says that I am feeling anxious, you can tell him that I noticed an irritation on your face. Is it only anxiety or is it irritation? And the person says, yes. Now that you say it, I realize that I am irritated. So you're helping that friend of yours also. Or the person may say, no, I'm not irritated at all. It's just that anxiety type of thing. Was I showing irritation on my face? So it helps him to understand that without being irritated, he was giving out a signal as though he is irritated. So he better be careful on that friend. And it gives you an indication that what I thought of as irritation was actually anxiety. That's how we start off. Now let me be very, very clear that empathy, or building up this skill called empathy, takes immense amount of practice. It's so easy to say, yes, I understand what people are going through. I'm a person who's always been interested in human welfare. Yeah, I know so and so must be upset, so and so is this or that. It doesn't work that way. Let me give you a real life example. Here was this very eminent surgeon, a cancer surgeon. There was one old lady who was suffering from throat cancer, and it had become so bad that doctors had given up hope. At one point they said, no, this cancer cannot be treated, and that's the end of her life. Within a few days or few weeks, she is going to pass away. Somebody approached this cancer surgeon and took the patient to him. He said, yes, there is a chance. I can maybe do a very intricate surgery and remove the entire cancer. Would you like to take a chance? Yes, that was the last chance, no other hope. Go ahead. He did the surgery successfully. Her life was saved. She is sent off to the post-op and then to the ward. Few days later, this doctor is taking his rounds in the hospital. He walks into her room. And this lady is lying down on the bed. She's got all these needles stuck in her hand. She cannot get up. Her throat is bandaged. She cannot speak. But the moment she saw the doctor, her eyes lit up. She gave a big smile and grabbed a pad, writing pad from her table, and started scribbling away furiously. Doctor, you have come to see me. I'm so happy to see you. I would have liked to personally come and meet you as soon as I am up and about. I think that I owe my life to you. Without you, I would have been dead today. You are the one who saved my life and has given me a fresh lease of life. I am so thankful to you. She wrote all that and handed it over to the doctor. Doctor read it, smiled back at her, turned the page and wrote, it is God who saves lives. I am only doing my duty. But I am very happy that your entire cancer has been removed and you get a fresh lease of life, and now you can have a healthy and a long life. God bless you and have a good, healthy and long life. See you. And give it back to her. Lady is looking very puzzled at the pad at the doctor. Then she turns the third page and writes, Doctor, I can hear. The doctor did not have to write and give back. He knows he's an eminent cancer surgeon. He knows that that throat surgery has done nothing to her hearing. She can't speak, so she's writing and giving. He can talk back to her. No? He doesn't have to take the trouble of writing and handing it back to her. This is what I mean by saying that if you truly want to empathize, you can't put yourself in the shoes of the other person till you remove your own. Now this man is taking his rounds wearing the shoes of an eminent cancer surgeon, oncologist. So he doesn't even understand what happens to a patient. He knows what happens to the cancer. He knows it so beautifully. He can do wonders. He can do miracles and save lives. But he doesn't understand a simple thing like a person who's got, who's recovering from throat cancer can only communicate one way. She has to write and people have to talk back to her. So that is why I have this very, very strong suggestion that please keep removing your shoes. Stop this labeling thing. Oh, this one, yes, I know. That one, yes, that is how that person will behave. I had a young man coming to me once from another city and saying that I've just moved into this city and I want to be, I'm a very trained and highly qualified counselor. I've got this string of degrees. And now that I moved into this city, I was told that you're one of the people in this field and I would, like your help to get some employment or assignment or something of that sort. I was interested, nice young man with very good qualifications. I started talking to him. At one point he suddenly said, Dr. Ali, I can counsel alcoholics very well. I said, thank you. I'll let you know when there is something. And I sent him off. You know why? The very fact that this man makes a bombastic statement saying, I can counsel alcoholics very well. Now, alcoholics are not people with 2 horns and 4 hands and 6 legs. An alcoholic is a human being, exactly like you and me, who has a problem because he has been drinking alcohol and has become dependent on it. That's it. So what do you mean by saying, I can counsel alcoholics? I'm putting a label on that person. I'm looking down at him. This disgusting person who is an alcoholic. No empathy. I don't want you to succumb to that sort of thing as you go on deeper and deeper into the field of counseling. And to be able to refrain from doing that, you have to constantly and continuously keep improving on this skill of empathy. Every now and then ask yourself, what is this person saying or behaving or his action? Even an action which a person comes and tells you. Let's say this man comes and tells you that, I'm very angry with my wife. She doesn't cooperate with me. She's not nice to me and this. And, things have become so bad. The only way I can get work done from her is to hit her. Very easy to be, holier than thou and this and that and say, hey, you go about hitting your wife and you expect her to cooperate and be nice to you. It doesn't work that way, right? No. Stop. Empathize with that person. Why do you think this person is hitting his wife? Go back all the way. Maybe he came from that type of background where his father used to hit his mother regularly. If that was not bad enough, he had an experience once which is deeply embedded in his mind. From small age, he saw his father beating up his mother and he used to get very scared and go and scrounge in one corner. One fine day when he was maybe 10 or 12 years old, he felt that I'm big enough and I'm macho enough and I'm going to protect my mother. The angel, the great, pillar of support, the one person whom I love more than anybody else in this whole world. She's getting beaten up by her husband. I am going to protect her. So the next night, when the father came and was about to hit his wife, this young fellow came in between and said, hey, you don't touch my mother, okay? Do you know what the mother did? Make a guess. The mother probably told the little fellow, don't you dare talk to your father like that. Who are you to come in between? Move off. Maybe she gave him a slap and said, move out. What has this got to do with you? Now his whole value system took a topsy-turvy. Who's the good guy and who's the bad guy? My mother, whom I love, adore, respect, She is the one who slapped me and said, move out from here. So probably a husband hitting a